All right, we're live. We're doing it.
All right.
Okay. So, Kallie, I'm just curious the process in which you guys go about your events. I know it's something you guys have done for a long time. It's important to you guys. So, can you just walk me through sort of how you came to wanting to do the events, and then what your guys' process is for how many events you do, and just, I guess, let's start there. So what brought you to the idea of wanting to sort of be an event-based business?
Okay. I guess learning about it was back at family reunion in Anaheim. I want to say it was maybe 2018 or 2019.
Okay.
And I watched Laura Jalot on stage, and she presented events, and it was really the first time I had ever heard about it. And it really fit well with my values and also the way I like to do business. So I'm a little bit scared of just the traditional lead generation. And it felt like with events that I could come from contribution and give back to people and also have a really good time, and business would follow from it. And so that's really where the idea was born. Over the years, we've done lots of different events and had a hard time. Sometimes we would have a hard time tracking whether the event was successful or not. And so we've really narrowed it down to a few core events that we can really track where the success of that event comes from. And then some of our events we know are more just loving on our people and nurturing, but not something where we can actually record results from it.
Okay. So the idea is born in 18, 19, somewhere in there. Coming back from that trip, how does it get implemented, right? Because I think that's always a gap for people. It's like, I've got this idea and it just stays an idea. So how did you guys come back from that trip and then start to implement this process? Was it like, let's just pick this one thing down the road and that'll be our first go at it, or what happened from kind of born idea to actual event?
Yeah. So we fell on our face for really a few years. Like truly, now the way we look at this, and I guess I'm gonna give you what it should be like, and then I'll take you back to the process of how it happened. But now we know that your event, even if nobody ever shows up, should be a success based on the work that you did leading up to that day. So
For sure.
if the roof of your tent caved in and you had to cancel the event. Oh, we had one. We had an Easter event where the wind was like 50-mile-an-hour winds and you couldn't even put like a plastic egg on the ground. And we had to cancel the event within like 2 hours of it. And you need to know that that event was still a success based on the work that happened leading up to it. And so some of our goals are talk to all our people. It gives us a reason to actually reach out, and we touch them a few different ways. So voice to voice, we try to get on the phone with everybody that we want to be at that event and our past clients, and have them invite friends, things like that. We send an actual physical invitation, so they get a mail, and we put these out at different times, and then we also email it out. So we get a few different points of contact with our people leading up to the event. And then we also get the social media parts of it where, you get to tell people that you're doing something fantastic. And, there's a couple different types of events. So there's some private events where you want people to feel like they're maybe on the outside of the Cool Kids Club and they want to be a part of that. And then there's some where, you're just loving on your community and you want people to know that that's the heart of your team and that that's the goal of that event.
Yeah.
So our first event, rewinding all of that, I maybe missed all of that part. Like how it was a success was just like, how can I get the most amount of people here? And so it was in the first year we opened the Burley office, and I got my mom to wear an Easter Bunny suit. And we did ice cream with the Easter Bunny and let them just take pictures with the Easter Bunny with their phones, and gave away free ice cream. And if you know anything about a community, if you say something's for free, usually people will show up. And a lot of people came and we did nothing with it. We didn't record their names. We had all these pictures of these families that were like, okay, we posted it on Facebook. So that was the extent of what we got out of it. We didn't capture any information. It was awful. Like, we did better at an open house on capturing people than we did on this event that cost us probably about $1,200. So yeah, fast forward, our Easter event, we still do. And we do that geared, like, our goal of that one is to talk to other commercial businesses. And really, like, we get two things out of that. We get contact with other business owners, which Kit is focusing almost solely on commercial. So that gives him a reason to go talk to these commercial potential clients without actually having like real estate to talk to them about. So it gives them a point of contact there. And then the social media aspect of it. So we get to love on our community and then let people know about it. But it is an event that we've actually brought in a few different sponsors on. And so it's a really low cost event for us. It takes quite a bit of work for our team. We fill a few thousand eggs and brought it to Rupert on the square. And it's actually an Easter egg hunt. And we've done that now for 4 years. And it's just one of our community-based events that we're really known for doing.
Yeah. So, but I think that you kind of have to fail, quote unquote, fail in order to get where you guys are, because now you do have like the system in place from like, it is, I really liked what you said, that the event, regardless of if it is a quote unquote success, is in people showing up, right? That you've done so much work going into it, communicating that even if no one came, there was a ton of conversations that took place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge, whether it be an open house or an actual event. I think that it should just be a placeholder to create those conversations.
Yep. So we strategically space our events out throughout the year so that it gives us those reasons to contact our sphere. Because again, I'm just weird about picking up the phone and calling and checking on them. And this many years in real estate, like, I still struggle with that one. And so for me, I have to create a reason around it. And usually it's an item of value where I feel like they would be interested in that phone call. And so it gives us that reason to talk to our people a few different times a year.
So what was like the year you guys did the most? Have you done like one year where you're like, we tried to do 10 and that was crazy, and now we've dialed it down to something quarterly? Like, what's the most amount you've ever done, and now where is that cadence with you guys now? How many do you just have sort of like dialed in?
Yeah, I think the most amount was 6. So we had a food drive. We did the pie event around Thanksgiving time. We did our Easter event, and then our client appreciation events in each area.
Okay.
And it's just too much. It's too much to really work through our database and invite everyone. The really dialing down our purpose at that time for each event. Like, now we know, like, each event has its own purpose. And at that time we didn't have that. So that was too many for our team. Do I think that that's a very possible number? I would say 6 events in a year is very attainable for a team to do. If you, I would say it wasn't because of the amount of events, it was the lack of intentionality around them and understanding really what the purpose of each event was. So whatever the event is, I think that you have to understand, like, what's the purpose to begin with? And if the purpose is just to talk to all of our people, then start to dial back, like, well, is there a more affordable way to do this? Do we bring in some vendors for some sponsorships? Like, how do we do this? And then how do we make it something that people look forward to? And so that would be whatever amount it is, whether it's one event that you do really, really well in a year, or 6 events that you do, and that's your main thing that you do. Just make sure that there's really clear purpose around each one.
Okay. So where do we sit? It's 2024. We're at the end of the year here. What transpired events this year for you? And I don't know if we would include the parade of homes, or if that's something separate that you did kind of on your own. But that was a huge undertaking too. So that might be separate from what transpired through the business.
Yeah, I'll tell you about 2024, and then I'll tell you the Parade of Homes has definitely been a huge topic of conversation, because I didn't really loop my team into that until, about 4 days before it, that I'm like, I need your help. And then in true Kallie fashion, I cried on stage thanking them for it at our event. So,
but it's so endearing, Kallie. That's why we love you.
Yeah, so we'll get to that one next. But leading up to that, so we did our Pinewood Derby event. Which I don't know if you're familiar with that one, so I'll tell you about that one in just a minute. Our Easter event. And then the day after Thanksgiving, we did an event that day, and then our customer appreciation. And our customer appreciation events actually got canceled for a couple reasons, and gave us a really good reason to talk to our people. And I'll tell you about those. So starting with the Easter event, that one we changed again to just a community event. It is not one that we capture all the names anymore. We've through the years tried to figure out how the best way to do that was, and in the end realized that we were just capturing names of a lot of people that we would have to really mine the data to find great clients. That's an event where a lot of people come, most of them just looking for some free candy.
Sure.
And so that one was an event we just decided, like, the purpose of that one is to talk to the vendors and the sponsors leading up to it, and the other businesses in our community, which is really, that one is very heavily focused around the square and the businesses right there. And so that's our sole purpose of that one. And then just truly giving something back to the community. So we partnered on that one with the Boys and Girls Club, and they provide a portion of the eggs, we provide a portion of the eggs, and then we just have a big event that takes us, a few weeks of really a lot of work. And then about 30 seconds after the shotgun goes off, it's like the eggs are gone. A couple moms have pushed each other around, and it's over.
It's like Thanksgiving dinner, right? It's 8 hours in the kitchen. It's 5 minutes of eating. It's a total train wreck. And you're like, I just put a lot of labor into this, and it didn't last very long.
Yep. Everyone's slightly frustrated and very glad it's over. So that's the extent of our Easter event. One of our favorite ones that we will continue to do, because I can't tell you how many people tell us thank you for that one, and we're definitely very well known for doing it.
Yeah.
So then
that builds goodwill, right? Like you said, it might not be direct business, but I think the goodwill that you guys came in to want to build in that community. It's a known thing, right? People look forward to it. I'm sure they tell their friends, and you're tied into that. And I'm sure that the Boys and Girls Club is thrilled to partner with you guys.
Yeah. For sure. It's very intentional around how do we give back to our community in a thoughtful way. So
yeah. And having more fight is kind of fun too.
Yeah. It's good entertainment.
Totally.
So then in June, we do our Pinewood Derby race. And this one was Kit's brainchild that I thought was pretty hilarious, that turned out fantastic. We've done it for 4 years now. And he actually did it the first year as his own birthday party. And we chose, the first year it was just a gentleman in the community who was in his 30s who had been diagnosed with cancer. And we were just going to give all the proceeds back to him. And we had an amazing showing of support. And it's an adult, really, Pinewood Derby. Like, they buy a block of wood from us, and it's the block of wood and the entry into the race. And we have some trophies and a really fun night, but we have an awesome track that actually the owners of Barkley Mechanical bought and donated. And we have a bunch of adults come out, and they put in like weeks of work into their little Pinewood Derby cars. And we have best of show and these fun races, and they have side bets, and we donate the money back. And it raises about $12,000 a year for,
how cool is that?
Yeah, it's super awesome. And we donate all of that. The last 2 years we've donated all to the Boys and Girls Club.
And so is the
So
Boys and Girls Club your guys' main nonprofit beneficiary, or is it just for those two?
yeah, we have three that
Okay.
we focus on. So we have Boys and Girls Club, and I'm a board member for Boys and Girls Club. So it has my heart because I'm very involved and I get to see the mission on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
So the Boys and Girls Club, the J Foundation, and Simply Hope. So those are
Okay.
our three that we really focus on and give the majority back to.
Okay, cool. So the Easter event is the community-based event. Does the Pinewood Derby then sort of outside of celebrating Kit's birthday, does it take a slightly different angle in which you guys are trying to approach it?
Yep. So that one is for sure more geared towards our clients.
Okay.
And again, towards businesses. So we have businesses that will challenge each other. So we'll have like one electric company that buys, 20 cars for their electricians, and they'll get on social media and challenge another one to do the same. And so it really has become a very fun event for the businesses in our community to participate in.
So how does a derby race work? What happens?
So everyone checks in their cars. So they show up, there's dinner included. So they show up, they check in their cars, they all get put out on these big tables. And then the first couple hours is just socializing, hanging out, eating dinner. And then the races start. And we have this great big track that's set up in the back room. This year it was at the Edgewater. And they donated all the dinner, the venue. It was fantastic. And they'll be doing it again. So we set up the track across the back, and everyone just gets around and cheers on these cars, and they set off 4 cars at a time that races, and, grown men hoot and holler because they've been helping their kids do this for years, and now they actually get to take credit for it. And it's a really good time.
And so
Yeah,
that goes, so those 4 cars race, and then you go into brackets, and it moves on and on and on until the winner's declared.
We have, the top 3, and then best of show get trophies. And then we do an auction that night. And the auction is where the primary funds go that are raised to donate back.
Okay. And is that where the other businesses come in? They donate goods or services and things like that? And that's kind of what is then auctioned off.
It creates our auction. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So both again, one community, one client, but both very intertwined through the business community you guys really want to be in contact with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's 2. What's the third one?
So the third one is, I'm trying to think of so the customer appreciation ones. So this year, our customer appreciation ones, we were doing in early fall, and we rented kayaks, and had one in Burley and one in Twin Falls, and rented a venue, and we were doing a potluck. So all of our clients were going to bring a dish, and we called them all and talked to them through it. And then both of them had the worst weather, and we canceled the events. So we didn't do the event. The potluck was off, and we still had amazing conversations because not only did we get to call everyone leading up to it, we called everyone to let them know we weren't doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you got to pre-follow up, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the only 2 really shitty days of weather that we've had, up until now. And it's almost Christmas.
Yeah. And we're finally getting snow. So there's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how that would flow. You would have the Easter, you'd have the summer event, and then two customer appreciation events in the fall. What dates do you try to aim for those fall ones? It sounds like one's a little bit earlier with kayaks.
Yeah. So this one we did too late. We had planned it in September, and mostly just because I had 2 big events, one with the Boys and Girls Club and then one with the Parade of Homes.
Yep.
And we were just really hot and heavy and planned them too late. So those ones really are our summer events typically. And so we do early June for Kit's birthday, and then typically for the Pinewood Derby, and then typically late August for that.
So June, August, and then is there another event that follows that one up?
Yep, in November. So the day after Thanksgiving, every year. This one was fun because we learned how to piggyback off of another event and make something that's like a really super good time that is extremely low cost to us. So, and this has happened the last 2 years, here at our building on the square. We've had, so the city of Rupert that day does very similar to like the Twin Falls, the Christmas in the Nighttime Sky, where they do the chili feed and the fireworks. Rupert
Okay.
Square does the same thing. So they have a big firework display. They have a chili feed out in the square, and we just invite really like our whole, it's not a public event, but we invite all of our past clients, our friends, our family, just our sphere in general. And we have them come to it again, potluck style. So we have them bring something to share. And then we give them each either a drink ticket where they can go into the pub and buy a drink, or they can go into the coffee shop and get a drink or ice cream. And we give it to everyone that shows up. So their whole family. And those for us are pre-negotiated pricing that we give them, and they bill us at the end of it. This year, the event cost us like $80. And
Wow.
we had hundreds of our clients show up, and we had actually mailed out invitations up leading up to the event with some cards in them. So we'll probably have some residual where they'll come in throughout December. But it was a very low cost event with a really large impact of being able to socialize with everyone and them be able to talk to each other. So just a really good networking event.
Well, that's pretty incredible that you can do that much on that much of a shoestring budget too.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the total cost, Kallie, for the 4 events that sort of happen? What would you know, if you know the number, great, but what would you ballpark the number at?
Yeah, our event budget each year is $6,000.
$6,000 for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then is that shared equally? Well,
no, it's not.
Okay.
No,
So,
like our Easter event has become over time a pretty low cost event. We reuse the eggs. We've figured out like dumping stations. So that one over time has become a lot of labor intensive, but not as expensive for us. Our Pinewood Derby and our customer appreciation are the brunt of it. We hire live music for all 3 of those events. Most of the time we get the food donated for the Pinewood, but then like our customer appreciation, we do like the pulled pork and things like that. So
okay. So
yeah,
each year,
and print
6,000.
supplies. Yeah, our print supplies come out of that budget. So we mail out invitations to our sphere each time. So those ones are that it's pretty good cost of that too.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think it's just so interesting that you guys just had that idea years ago, and then you guys executed it, and it's been years now that you've done it. And I mean, each and every one of these things sound like they're truly great standalone events that people look forward to, that gives you purpose to, you know, reach out to people in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah. I would say if it's something that somebody's thinking about doing, if like hosting a bunch of people at your home is not your thing, events might not be either. Like this is one that I think you really have to be passionate about, like truly hosting, like truly putting your heart into putting something together and having people show up and it filling your cup.
Yeah.
Or else it would be an extremely, there's a lot more productive ways to use the amount of time and funds that you would if this isn't your thing.
Well, and I think, but that's the fun thing about the industry, Kallie, is that there are so many different ways to interact with people that if this isn't your thing, there are, I mean, hundreds of different ways to approach it. And this is obviously something that does fill your cup. That's why you do it. And it brings passion every single year, and you get excited and invigorated for the next thing that comes. And I think if you're not an event-based business, I think that would be the challenge is, okay, what is it that does kind of fire me up that I do look forward to doing? And then once you have to figure it out.
That's where my advice would be for any agent that's looking at, I mean, if events like piques your interest because you see some success through it, really dive into like, what fills your cup and what are you passionate about? Because I think there's a lot of different, like you said, there's a lot of different paths to success. And this is a really good form of lead generation for us. But I know a lot of people who would think that what we're doing is like the worst type of work that you could be doing, right? And I would also say that this is a slower path to success. You could spend the same average amount of time over the year just picking up the phone and having conversations with your sphere, with expireds, canceled, FISBOs. Like there's a lot of different ways to use your time. And this one is a slower path to success. It's not something that you're going to see in the first, I would say even 2 years, getting a ton of business back from. It's something that over time you build on it.
So I guess let's touch on that then. So if it does take a little bit of time, how do you deem these things to be successful? How do you know, not to make it metrically like, okay, let's track numbers, but to a degree, right? If you said, Zach, just go make, X amount of phone calls a day, you could have a correlation to phone calls, to conversations, to sort of appointments, right? That would be a super simplistic way to look at it. This, you guys are having, I mean, I don't know overall numbers, but these 4 events, I can imagine it is thousands of people. It is hundreds, if not thousands of contact points.
Yep.
With the phone calls, right? The voice to voice, the social media, the direct mail, the hi, how are you doing the day I see you? The follow-up thereafter, it was so great to see you last week, or so sorry we missed you. I mean, just each one of those events has, multiple touch points. So how do you guys metrically track it? And would you look at that any differently now, 4 years down the road, than you did initially?
Yes, for sure. So I think the most telling thing that we've ever done was when I came back to real estate, so a year and a half ago now, Tamara and Kit and I sat down and took every closing we've ever had. And I learned a few things out of this. So I'm going to spiral for a second, but we took every closing that we had and Tamara put them all into a spreadsheet. So just their names and their address next to them.
This is a good exercise for everyone to do anyway.
Oh, it so is. This was one of the best ones. And there's something that came out of it that I'm going to really challenge anybody that actually watches this far into this video to do. So we wrote down all their names, all their addresses, and the 3 of us just got in a conference room and started going through where did that lead come from initially? Like whether that was we met them at an event, they were a referral from somebody. And if they were a referral, we had a separate column next to it to who referred them. And the biggest thing we learned was if you don't think that your clients have forgotten about you, do that. I challenge you to see if you know who all of your clients are, because we truly didn't. We were not staying in close enough contact that some of them we were like, I don't even know who that is. And I'm like, well, Kit, it must be your person. I have no idea who that is. And he's like, not mine. That's got to be yours, right? So we definitely do that. That was the biggest one. We identified some events that we had done for years up to that point that we had no traction from. We've had no business come from those. And had maybe never seen those people at an event, had, at least on some of them, we could say they attend these 3 events in the year. Or we could look down our referral column of who was referring us business and say they were giving us business over the years, or they were attending those. They were our people who was giving us most of business and attending some of our events. And so really that helped us determine the ones that we wanted to continue to do and to pour more into and to have better points of contact through those. The biggest thing we learned was you better stay in close contact with them, because if you don't remember them, they for sure don't remember you.
There's that. I mean, I guess I would challenge that thought to a degree, because as a realtor with you guys, right, you look at the course of your, right, whatever it is, right, around 9-year, 10-year career. I mean, if you're really moving and shaking, it can be hundreds of people. And on average, people move every 10 to 15 years. So for better or worse, they might remember you. They might say, oh, Kallie or Zak was so great. But it could also go the other way, like, hey, they totally forgot about us too. Remember that?
Yeah. Like, oh, they sold us a house and then they never came back.
And then
Like,
they never cared about us again.
yeah,
So,
as much as I love my people, I'm so guilty of that with
yeah.
a number of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's tough. It is a challenge, but I do think, and again, for anyone who does make it this deep into the thing, I will make some notes, Kallie, so we'll highlight some of the good stuff. So, but I think that exercise is so critical, and I think it's just so eye-opening for people too, because they think my business comes from here or there or everywhere, and then when they actually look at it, they go, "Oh my God, everyone I've ever worked with is people that I know directly or that I directly know that referred me somebody." Right, really, for the most part, unless you're buying leads or doing something like that, most of it is going to be through the conversations you have on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it was an extremely telling exercise for us.
Yeah, so I think there's so much I think we could go into, but I just let's keep it short and sweet here. We can kind of put a bow on it to a degree, but just the tracking of people. How do you guys track who shows up, who doesn't show up? If they're new, how do you like capture contact information, right? If it's an open house, I think we all know, here's a sign-in sheet, you know, my sellers want you to do this, but how do you guys function on that side so you do know the database is growing?
Yeah, so we are unique in that way with our events now. The only one that brand new people come to that aren't invited people is the Easter event.
Okay.
That's a public event where a lot of people come. We used to have them register, and this was a really easy way to do it. We stopped doing it because, again, we realized that you had 100 phone calls where there was like no capability or interest in purchasing real estate in any time in the near future. So that was we stopped doing that point, but we had a really easy way to do that. We had 2 local partners who bought bikes, and we had everyone register to win these bikes. And so registration started, say, at 9 a.m. and the egg hunt was at 11, and we didn't pull the trigger until everyone had registered in this line. And so you can capture information in so many different ways. Gear your event to an audience that is going to make sense of your time to follow through on. Yeah. So we discovered that was one that we just weren't capturing any information on. Then our Pinewood one, everyone registers for that one. So we know typically ahead of time, they've purchased a car, and then sometimes they're just purchasing dinner tickets. Sometimes we have people show up that night, but everyone registers that night. So we know exactly who comes. We know how to invite them the next year. They typically invite a friend or 2, and then we end up with we continue to put them into our database that way.
Okay.
And then same with our customer appreciation events. We record everyone that comes, and then we thank them for being there.
Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense that the Easter one would be a challenge, right? Because that is sort of being broadcast to everybody. And I think it goes back to that idea of just maybe starting small, right? If it's your first event, start with your core people, your closest friends, your family, and build upon that. So that would be easy to track on that side too. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that we should have talked about? Any last words?
No, I think just starting with, what is the purpose of the event? Like, who are you going to contact? How are you going to continue to contact them? And how will you measure the success of it? Like, those are the 3 questions that I would ask myself before I ever started planning, before I knew what the budget was or what we were going to order or how we were going to execute the event. Make sure that you know that part of it, and you'll be thousands of dollars ahead. Yeah.
No, I think that's really good. Ask yourself, do you actually want to do this?
Yeah. Does this give you joy? Because if it doesn't, there's so much better ways to contact people and make, add to your sphere.
For sure. And I think just that the event is the placeholder in which all activities flow from. So regardless of if it actually happens, right, weather, sickness, whatever, it's still successful because there's been so much communication that's transpired around that date.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I so appreciate the time. Thank you for sharing the story about events.
Yeah, it was fun to catch up.